inshallah ta'ala, any difficulties we face in our lives, we remain firm and strong in our beliefs, and we won't waver. We might find difficulty, life's not easy, but inshallah ta'ala, we remain upright and won't collapse. So, aqidah, beliefs, is the very most basic thing that each and every one of us needs to understand. Because there's some young people here, some of my students now here as well, they've actually studied some of this before. So those two students, they actually, most of the material we're going to cover in this, in fact, what we're covering in this lesson, they've covered before. And quite a bit of what's inside this book, they've already covered before. So now I know what kind of level we are. I'll try and tone down, keep the language, so that we can keep everyone inside it. So we've looked at two examples, the example of a building and its foundations, the example of a tree and its roots. The scholars of Islam, the people that are knowledgeable in Islam, they've told us that aqidah in relation to actions, belief, aqidah, called belief, in relation to actions is the likeness of a building and its foundations, the likeness of a tree and its roots. The foundations, the roots are strong. The tree, the building is strong. And if the foundations are weak, the building collapses at any difficulty. Also, the tree is uprooted and falls over at the slightest of any strong wind. Therefore, the first and foremost thing that a person needs to correct in his life, the first thing that he needs to give attention to is his beliefs, and make his beliefs according to that which the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ wrote, the beliefs that are mentioned in the Quran and the hadith, the sayings of the Prophet ﷺ. That's the first thing that a person needs to set right. That doesn't mean he stops doing actions. A person is required to pray, yeah? Even though he may not know the details of his belief. He believes in Allah, but he may not know the details of that. The particular details, the particular question comes, he may not know the answer to that. But he holds the belief that the answer to that question is whatever is true in the court of Allah, that is my answer in that. Even though I don't know the answer, then he seeks the answer. But he doesn't stop doing actions. However, the beliefs, when they are sound and firm, the actions will be sound. And unfortunately, when the beliefs, we find that people, when they don't pay attention to their beliefs properly, then you find people who have the wrong beliefs, you find wrong actions coming from those beliefs. Wrong actions, they are the result of wrong belief as well. See a tree when it's really good, it's got good roots, and it's a tree which produces fruit. The fruit it produces will be healthy, nice, everybody wants that. When the tree's roots are not good, they're rotten. Yep. What happens to the fruit? Comes out rotten. Nobody wants that fruit. When the people see the fruit that the tree is born, that it's produced from its roots, if its roots are good, you get good fruit. Everybody wants to be part of that. But when the tree has bad roots, you get bad fruit. Nobody wants to be a part of that. We should be a person in our lives that has strong roots, strong foundations, like a building or like the example of the tree. Looking at the level, because there's different ages across here, there's a couple of things that we need to note at the beginning, which I'll explain. This lesson will set the foundation for all the other lessons. In theory, the one who misses this lesson, he will find all 7 lessons after this confusing. The reason is what we'll do is we'll establish a very important measure in this lesson by which we will understand all the next 7 lessons, just like what we talked about. If the foundation is not strong, the building is weak. If the roots are not strong, the tree is weak. In this lesson, in this course, this lesson is very important. If you don't understand this lesson, or you miss this lesson, lesson number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is going to be what's happening? What is he saying? What does that mean? What does that mean? But the children, they will know that when you study this lesson, then inshallah ta'ala, the 2nd, the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th lesson is very easy. And when you've understood this lesson, whenever you pick up a book like Bahari Shariat, whether it's in the Urdu language or in the English, the first volume has been translated as well, and a few other volumes. The first volume is a summarization of the major beliefs of the Sunni Muslims, those who follow the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's way, as it was given to us generation by generation. There are terms inside that really you won't understand unless you understand this lesson. Because we're going to mention those terms. Insha'Allah ta'ala, if you understand this lesson well, whichever book of Islamic beliefs that you pick up, like the basic Islamic beliefs, the terminology that relates to the discussion about Allah and the Prophets, you're going to start to understand, this means that, this is what the author means by this term. So you need to concentrate. This lesson is very important, that you need to have a lot of concentration. Okay.
Shall I arrange for paper and pen?
If you, yeah, it would be ideal. These lessons, these lessons, you'll never understand, you'll never be able to, unless you've got an extremely good memory. Unless you've got an extremely good memory, you won't be able to remember what's inside these lessons. But I can tell you this, the lessons, the way that they are, the way that the book that we're going to do is that each lesson inside it is a revision of the previous one. But the most important lesson in terms of understanding it is this one. However, what we cover today, we will be saying the same thing tomorrow in the next lesson, and the third, and the fourth, and the fifth, and the sixth, the seventh, the eighth. The same terms that we use, the same words that we use, and the meanings of those words, they will be repeated in the book. That is why this lesson is so important. But alhamdulillah, the way that the actual book is, it makes us revise again and again. Now, today we won't need the book. Next week, inshallah, according to the numbers that we have, we're going to print notes from this book so that you have something to look at, and as we explained, create notes or write notes around it. We said that the course is about essential beliefs, and that beliefs in the Arabic language are عقائد, the aqidah of a person. Do any of you know where that word comes from? Do you guys know where the word aqidah comes from? Aqaid, where does it come from? We translate it as what? Beliefs. What's the root word for aqidah? Anybody know where that comes from? Because that actually explains to you the meaning of the word.
Faith.
Faith, yeah. Aqaid is faith, beliefs. It comes from Arabic word aqd. It comes from the Arabic word aqd. Now aqd has two meanings. One is a knot. You know what knot is? You tie something. A knot. Another is an agreement. Anyone who does aqd nikah? Aqd nikah. Aqd nikah is the nikah contract. Yeah? Or when you trade and buy and sell, you have an aqd. What do you call that? You call that an agreement. It's binding. The aqd of nikah, the agreement of nikah between a man and a woman is binding. The agreement between a person buying and selling is binding. The knot is what? Binding, fastened, hard, tight, tied. Aqd actually means contract, yeah, or it means tying in a knot of something. Tie in a knot. Can mean a binding contract. What do you mean by binding? Tight, fixed. You can't undo it. Yeah? So aqd is the original word in Arabic. Aqd. Ayn, qaf, dal. Which means to tie in a knot. Or to form a contract which is binding. So you can see straight away from that what aqidah is going to be something which is solid. You can't unfasten it. Tight binding of something. Yeah? Firmness in something. And that's what aqaid is all about. Firmness. Yeah? To be definite. To be convinced. For something to be tightly fastened. So that it cannot be undone. You cannot undo it. The scholars say, what is aqidah then? They say in language, when we talk about the word aqidah, just in language, here we haven't got to the stage where we're talking about it in terms of being an Islamic science. In language, aqidah is that which the heart has firmly resolved upon and fastened itself around. Aqidah is that which the heart has firmly resolved upon and fastened itself to. I'm going to explain all the difficult words slowly. Aqidah is that which the heart has firmly, very strongly resolved upon, decided. You want to know what resolved means? Decided. That's it. That is right. This is right. This is correct. This is this. This is the way things are. And fastened itself to. Bind it. Same word that we used before. Bind it. Fastened. Like if you look in terms of the things that we do every day, we fasten a knot. They say we tie a knot, we fasten a knot. Yeah? Fasten your seatbelt. Bind, connect, yeah? Become attached to, totally connected and joined to, yeah? That's what we mean here by Aqidah. That which the heart has firmly resolved upon and fastened itself to is an Aqidah. But now this word Aqidah is used in Islamic sciences. So when we talk about the Islamic sciences, yeah, the sciences of Islam. Islam has many sciences. Sciences to do language, grammar. Yeah. Sciences to do with the actions people do, which we call fiqh. Yeah. When we have books about how to do wudu, how to do ghusl, what are the rules for fasting, what breaks a fast. That's a science. The science of Aqidah, what is it? What is Aqidah? So, as an Islamic science, Aqidah the science of the knowledge of Allah's divine. Don't worry, every word inside there will explain what it means inside this definition. You know why you can't do without a pen and a paper in this lesson. Okay, let me explain all of this again, just from here. In language, in Arabic language, what does Aqidah mean? Arabic language, aqidah means that which the heart has firmly resolved upon and fastened itself to. Something is firm, conviction, you would say. You would say something which is a conviction, something which is a firm conviction in the heart. What do we mean by aqidah when we talk about Islamic aqidah, the science of Islamic aqidah? What is aqidah when we talk about Islamic sciences? Which is what we're concerned with right now, because this is what we're going to study in this 8th lesson. It is the science of the knowledge of Allah's divine attributes and His divine actions, the states of the created beings, the prophets, the angels, may the peace of Allah be upon them, the awliya and the a'imma, and creation and resurrection according to the principles of Islam, by which certainty is attained and doubts are lifted. So we need to explain a number of things inside that to make it very clear. First, it's a science in which there is knowledge. Yeah? The knowledge concerning what? A number of matters. First and foremost, the knowledge of Allah's divine attributes and His divine actions. What do we mean by divine attributes? In a moment we're going to go into a bit more detail, but at this point, just for you to understand the definition a little bit, an attribute is a meaning that exists with something. To give you an example of that is, if we said, what's your name? Adam. If we said Adam is strong, for Adam being strong is an attribute. It's a meaning which exists with Adam. The Adam is described with that meaning of being strong. And if you said Ali is weak, then we would say weakness is an attribute. It's a meaning that exists with Ali. That Ali has been, we are able to describe Ali with that. We're able to say that Ali has that quality, that attribute, that description, meaning a meaning that exists with Ali. Ali is Ali, 2 eyes, a nose, a mouth, ears, and so forth. But there's certain things that exist, meanings with Ali. Height, weight are his attributes, because he's a created thing. What we need to be clear here though is that the meanings that exist with human beings are not the meanings that exist with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's something that needs to be clear throughout our study, and we will clear that. Allah is not like creation. Creation is not like Allah. Allah has attributes. His attributes are not like the attributes of creation. And the attributes of creation are not like the attributes of Allah. Whoever never understood that, he has never worshipped Allah properly. Meaning, if he goes through his life and he doesn't understand that, he always compares Allah to creation, and he compares creation to Allah, he hasn't worshipped Allah. That's why the scholars like Imam al-Ghazali said that those that haven't understood this properly and they compare Allah to creation, so they have this imaginary being that they worship that has an arm and legs and eyes and sits on a chair in the sky. Astaghfirullah. That's not Islamic belief. He says they are not worshipping Allah, they are worshipping an imaginary idol that they've conjured up inside their heads. They haven't understood the divine attributes of Allah. So that's what we mean by attribute. An attribute is a meaning that exists, and we'll clear this again once we've created space at the top and we've moved a bit forward in the lesson. We need to explain this again in a bit more detail. What do we mean by attribute again? I gave that general example of him, that an attribute in language means a meaning that exists. Ali is strong, for example. If we said Adam now he's weak, so these are descriptions, or what we call meanings that are existent with them, that exist for them, and his divine actions. So it's a science which also talks about the knowledge about Allah's divine actions. What are the divine actions of Allah? Allah gives life, Allah gives death, Allah gives rizq to some, He gives more, to others He gives less, in accordance to His divine wisdom. So these are from the actions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yep. Giving life, giving death, giving rizq. The states, elevating the status of someone, lowering that status of others, and so forth. These are all from the divine actions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah's actions are not like the actions of human beings. Human beings' actions are not like the actions of Allah. This whole course will clarify that in detail, or make it very clear. Also, it's the science of the knowledge of Allah's divine attributes and His divine actions, and it's the science of the states of the created beings. So in Aqidah, not do we only learn about Allah and His divine actions and divine attributes, we also learn about the beings that Allah has created, in particular the prophets alayhimus salam, the angels alayhimus salam, may the peace of Allah be upon them all. The prophets and the angels. What is a prophet? What is an angel? Aqidah discusses this. The awliya, who, for want of a better word in the English language, some translate as the friends of Allah. And the meaning there is not in the meaning that we generally accustomed to know, that we have a friend. It's not in that meaning again. Because Allah is not compared to creation, creation is not compared to Allah. There are people that have worshipped Allah and they have reached a high rank in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the worship of Allah. And they are the close people of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not in the meaning of close that we know. Like I am close to Ali right now, that meaning cannot be applied to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. See how the principles of Aqaid, when we understand it, we have an understanding of who we are worshipping. Allah is not to be compared to creation. When we talk about the awliya being close to Allah, that meaning is not in the closeness of the example that we have in this world of a person being a distance between another person or another thing. No. And you could say, I am close to this, and I am far from this. This is related to created things. This can never be applied to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What does it mean that a person is close? It means in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that person has a high rank. Has a high rank in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The only